Hello and welcome to another tutorial in the Universe series. In this tutorial, we'll learn how to create this cool fluid sculpture that actually can be really nicely animated. Alright, so the reason I made this, of course, for the DVD is because a very frequently asked question in Cinema 4D is how can I create liquid? How can I create water like real flow? And that's not exactly what it's all about. But you can see you can create some really nice, wet, fluid, milky renders with this. Very interesting, alien things, I don't know. You decide, it's your sculpture, you are the artist. But we have to learn this technique first. It is slightly simple, but it needs some organization to work. So, let's create a new project. And the first thing we need to do is to create the basic structure of life, which is the sphere, of course. And we'll set the radius to 40. Let's just make it smaller, like an atom, very small. And let's try to imagine the stairs concept, and I'll explain that in a while. It's an organization method for Cinema 4D. Okay, now I have the basic structure. That's my atom. I need my molecule now. And to create the molecule, I'll click and hold here in this palette, and I'll click on array. And now you see the array palette pops up. You have some options here. But what you want to do is to drag the sphere inside the array, and you automatically have 7 copies in your original. So now we have a molecule, let's call it atom molecule. First step, second step. And now you have this and all, but you know, they're too spread out. And we'll set the copies from 7 to 16. And the radius to 150. So now they're all nice and together. A family, a molecule. So now we have array, we have the sphere, and now we want to transform our molecule in something greater, an element maybe. So we'll drag the array with the sphere inside to the meta ball. So now you have this not very interesting thing, but if you move, you see it actually creates a random effect. So now we have like a stairs. First step, second step, and the small structure. You can also come here and play around with the size you would like to do. So for instance, a water animation that pops out of nothing. Well, we'll just stick with the default 4 meters radius. There's one step left though, and this one is simple. You see, when you apply Metaball, you have some edges, some pointy parts, and we don't want that in water. So the last step is to create a hypernerbs and drag all the previous steps into the hypernerbs. So now we have a nice stairs. You can climb all the steps, you can fold them together, one inside the other. And you can actually double click here and say actually blob for our fluid sculpture. How nice. Okay, so now let's start the animation process. The first thing you want to make sure you do is make sure you are in frame 0, come to animation, auto keying. So now you click on this icon here and come to the animation workspace. And you can change to several kinds of different workspaces. So now you have your timeline here, and you click on the array and set a keyframe for the first one. But why is this grayed out? Because although you're selecting the array here, you're not selecting here. So when you select the array on the objects panel, you set a keyframe at 0. And you go to the last one, and you want to set a keyframe on the amplitude, on the array options, from 0 to 200. And look at what you have, man. Nice, smooth sculpture that builds out of nothing. Very interesting. Alright, so you probably wonder what else can we do? How can we make this together? Well, let's try to figure out. We can also set the radius to 100. And we have something more, let's say, not very spread out. Or you could actually set it to 300 and have something totally spread out, and depends on what you want to create. Both of them remind me of liquid, remind me of water, well, not water itself, but they can create some really nice renders. So play around. Remember, the basic thing is radius. If we increase, they're more spread out. If you decrease, they're more together. Needless to say, 0 is no effect at all. So I'll just set the radius to 150. That was fine. And no, that wasn't fine actually. I'll set it to 120, so that looks better. And I'll see if I can do something on the hypernerbs here to make it smoother. And you can just change the subdivision editor to make it smoother. And alright, we have our basic animation. Now we need to texture it, because if you render it does not look very interesting. So we'll come to File, New Material, you have your blank material, and we'll just double click on it. So for the color we want something like a blue, very light blue, very nice. We also want to create a reflection to reflect the environment. And something very interesting I just did here. I am in frame 90, what means that in frame 0 the material is different. You see the color changes. It is very important when you make materials to be in frame 0. So now in frame 0 you double click on the material, you come on color and you set it to a light blue like we did. Reflection, we check it again, nice. And now environment, and I'll check environment, and environment is something very uninteresting. It is kind of like reflection, but reflection, you are reflecting the environment around. Environment, you're reflecting something that doesn't exist. So I'll just come to the texture and set any image I have. I don't know, I'll just see what comes out when I type .jpg. And whatever comes out, I'll just make it available later on. So that looks nice. I'll just select it. Alright, so now you have this nice image here. And you want to test it out by dragging the material into the hypernerbs, the last step. If you drag into the sphere, it's not gonna work. Not gonna work. It might work on the metaball, because the hypernerbs is just making it smooth. The metaball is actually giving shape. So let's render out and look at this, man. Wow. Better than the initial render I showed you guys. Very crystallic, very nice. So I'll come to frame 0 again, and I'll just want an actual last modify, which is to apply some glow. And I want the inner strength to be 50 and the outer strength to be 200. Not a lot of glow. Let's see if that's still a lot. A lot. We don't want that much. So we'll set the inner strength to 10 and the outer strength to 50. That should make things nicer. Way nicer. Alright. So we also have our material. So that is how you can create a really nice fluid sculpture in Cinema 4D. I hope you guys have learned, and I'll see you in the next tutorial of the universe.